Today, we're diving into the work of Harvard geneticist Dr. David Sinclair. His research is completely flipping the script on one of the most fundamental processes of life, aging. I mean, really think about that. What if getting older wasn't this inevitable decline that we just have to, accept? What if it was something we could actually treat? This is the central question that's sparking a revolution in longevity science. So let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the big and, pretty controversial idea. Dr. Sinclair's whole point is that we only think of aging as normal because it happens to literally everyone. But if you look at what it does, it causes deterioration, sickness, and eventually death. Well, that fits the definition of a disease. And here's the kicker. If aging is the root cause of things like heart disease and Alzheimer's, then treating aging itself becomes the ultimate form of preventative medicine. So, to figure out how we could possibly treat aging, we first have to understand what's really causing it. And Sinclair's theory isn't what you'd think. It's not about our bodies just wearing out like an old car. It's about a loss of information. Think about it like this. You take a document and make a photocopy. Then you photocopy the photocopy, and you just keep doing that over and over again. With each new copy, the image gets a little fainter, a little fuzzier. The information theory of aging suggests that's exactly what's happening inside our bodies. We're slowly losing the original crisp instructions. So what exactly is this information? Well, our bodies are running on two different kinds of information systems. The first is digital. That's our DNA, our genetic code. The second is analog, and that's the system that reads the code, called the epigenome. And this is where it all gets really, really interesting. The genome is your body's digital blueprint. And here's the thing, it's incredibly stable. The best analogy is a brand new CD. The music itself, the digital code on that disc, is basically perfect. It doesn't really get corrupted over your lifetime. So the problem isn't the song, it's the CD player. And that's the epigenome. It's the CD player that tells each cell which track on the DNA to play, right? I mean, a skin cell and a brain cell have the exact same DNA, but the epigenome tells them to play totally different songs, and that's what gives them their identity. But over time, the CD reader gets scratched up by things like DNA damage and inflammation. And so it starts making mistakes. It starts playing the wrong genes. A nerve cell might start firing up genes meant for a muscle cell, and it forgets its own job. It gets confused. That, in a nutshell, is aging. And the implications of this are just massive. For so long, we thought our genes were our destiny. But what this work suggests is that a whopping 80% of our longevity is actually controlled by the epigenome, that analog system. And here's the amazing part. Unlike our DNA, we can actually influence the epigenome by how we live. Okay, so if the epigenome can get all scratched up, is there a way to protect it or even polish the scratches? The answer is a resounding yes. Our bodies have these ancient built-in defense systems that we can learn to switch on. Let me introduce you to the sirtuins. These are a family of 7 genes that basically act as our body's emergency response team. When they're activated, they're like little cellular mechanics going around repairing DNA, maintaining the epigenome, and protecting us from those scratches of aging. But here's the catch. When we're comfortable, well-fed, and everything's easy, these protector genes are mostly asleep. So, the million-dollar question is, how do we wake them up? How do we tell our bodies, hey, we need you to turn on your defenses now? Well, the answer is a little counterintuitive. We have to put our bodies under a little bit of stress. This principle is called hormesis. It's basically the scientific version of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The whole idea is that our bodies respond to perceived challenges by becoming tougher and more resilient. When our cells sense a bit of adversity, like hunger or intense exercise, they don't just survive. They kick on these powerful longevity pathways, including those sirtuins. Fasting is the perfect example of hormesis in action. When you skip a meal, your body doesn't just panic. That feeling of hunger sends a signal of adversity throughout your system. In response, your insulin levels drop, and that drop flips a switch that activates your sirtuins. It's your body's way of saying, okay, times might be a little tough, so let's hunker down, conserve resources, and defend ourselves. That simple act puts your body into a state of repair and protection. Now, what's really cool is that beyond just our lifestyle choices, scientists have actually found specific molecules that can trigger these same protective pathways. And this is where we get into the really practical tools that Dr. Sinclair talks about. So let's go back to our sirtuins, those protector genes. Think of them like a car's engine.
For them to work well, they need two key things: fuel in the tank and someone to press the accelerator. Resveratrol, which you might know from red wine, acts like the accelerator pedal. It pushes the sirtuins to work harder. But they can't go anywhere without fuel. And that fuel is a molecule called NAD. And NMN is a precursor our body uses to make more of that NAD fuel.
So here's a look at Dr. Sinclair's personal protocol, which is based on his own lab's research. He takes 1 gram of NMN every day to provide the fuel and 1 gram of resveratrol to press the accelerator. He also takes metformin, which is a prescription drug that basically tricks the body into thinking it has low energy, which also activates those defense pathways. He's essentially using these molecules to create that state of beneficial stress, or hormesis, without having to be hungry all the time. But, and this is so important, supplements are just one piece of the puzzle. These lifestyle habits are the real foundation. Skipping a meal now and then, eating plants that have undergone their own stress, like grapes from a dry vineyard, and of course, getting regular exercise. All of these things help turn on your longevity genes. And one really interesting tip from Sinclair is to pulse these interventions. For instance, in his lab, giving resveratrol to mice every other day was actually more effective than giving it every single day. You have to keep the body guessing so it doesn't get complacent. So all of this leads to a pretty mind-bending possibility. If aging is just a loss of information, could we do more than just slow it down? Could we actually hit rewind? And this is not science fiction. In a huge paper published in 2020, Sinclair's lab did something that was once thought to be completely impossible. They took old, blind mice, and by activating a special set of genes, they reset the epigenetic clock in the cells of the optic nerve. They literally made those cells young again. They repaired the damage, and boom, the mice could see again. This proved that a backup copy of our youthful information still exists in our cells, and we just might be able to access it. And that just leaves us with this incredible question. This research changes the entire conversation. We're not just talking about adding more years to our life anymore. We're talking about adding more life to our years. If we can restore function to old tissues and actually turn back the clock on our cells, well, the very definition of what it means to grow old is suddenly up for grabs. Just imagine what that future could look like.